Hello, 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 everyone. Hello, YouTubers. This is Anonymous T. Hope you're having an amazing day today. So today I wanted to discuss the latest spinoff in the Powerverse, and that is Power Book 4 Force. That came on Starz last night that premiered the first episode. That stars Joseph Sikora, aka Tommy, who of course was the star alongside Omari Hardwick in the original Power series. So a few things before we get started. I would say that out of all the spinoffs thus far, I feel like Power Book 4 is probably the closest to a true spinoff out of all of the other ones. I feel it is the least related in terms of the bulk of the Power cast that is still being incorporated in Raising Kanan and also Power Book 2. So I feel as though this is an opportunity for Tommy to completely, like, they gave us a nice little recap in the beginning of the people that he's killed, of the things that he's been through, of the people that he had to watch die, like Ghost and everything else, because people keep swearing up and down that Ghost is secretly alive somewhere. As much as I would like for that to be true, I just think that too much has happened for us to see Omari Hardwick back as Ghost ever. But, you know, stranger things have happened, but as of now, I think it's a no-go. So, like I said before, the show starts off, you know, kind of giving you like a little recap of what Tommy's been through, what he's done to others, and this and that. And then we kind of get right to it. The storyline was supposed to take off, you know, in his vintage Mustang. He was supposed to be driving from New York to Cali, and he was supposed to be meeting up with a new connect to basically work under him in his business in California. And then we basically see him doing this vintage driving and the Mustang and everything else. And then he almost gets into an accident as he is reminiscing, you know, on all the people that died, reminiscing on about to propose to Keisha, and reminiscing about Keisha's son Cash and all of this stuff. And then he, like, you know, the life flashes before his eyes and he almost runs off into the ditch. And so then, instead of going the other way, which was going to be the route to Cali, Tommy ends up going to Chicago instead. So essentially, you know, he almost crashes his Mustang, and then it's like, okay, let me just go to Chicago. So initially he goes to Chicago because we find out that he has a relative that lives in Chicago. So he first drives by that relative's house, and I assumed right off the bat it was like a grandmother or something, because it obviously wasn't his mother. And because when he held up a baby picture and like what it said on the back, I just immediately felt as though, you know, that was his grandmother. That had to have been his grandmother, and this is where she used to live. So then out comes some gang member where there's like weird chairs in front of on the street, and he's like, you can't park here. As you can see, there's a chair. And so then Tommy shows him his Glock, and then the guy like puts down his knife, and, you know, Tommy asks about, you know, where is his grandmother, and he says, oh, she is at this place, you know, and it turns out it's actually a nursing home. So he at first thought that she was dead, but he said, no, she's in a nursing home. So first Tommy goes to that particular nursing home and he sees her, but she's basically catatonic. Like, she cannot, you know, she's not talking, she's not doing anything. And so then from there, Tommy goes to this restaurant, this like Jamaican bar restaurant, where he meets Gloria, who I think is going to be his love interest throughout this series. And I've got to say, they make it a point to give Tommy the baddest black women. I mean, what is happening? So they made sure to give him the baddest. So, you know, they have really good chemistry. And, you know, Tommy's drinking, doing some day drinking, this and that. But then as Tommy goes out, because Gloria is telling him, you know, the bartender / cook, you know, to come back later for some of her Jamaican food, and that the kitchen will be open later. And so Tommy, he goes back outside, leans against his Mustang because it's parked out front. And this is where we kind of get an introduction to the Flynn family. And so the Flynn family is, basically supposed to be this big time family that, deals drugs and does all this other stuff. However, they're under investigation for the FBI because of some of their illegal activities. So it sounded as though they were trying to, do an exchange at this particular restaurant bar, and they were mad that Tommy was in their parking space. So like both of the sons were kind of, being, a certain type of way to Tommy, trying to, threaten to kill him or do all this other stuff just because he wouldn't move. And so then finally their father comes out and he basically, asks Tommy in a different way if he can move. And Tommy's all smart. Like, see, this is how you ask somebody to move their vehicle. But we find out one of the sons is or still is involved with Gloria in some capacity. So that will be interesting because it's probably going to set up as a love triangle. So I was like, wow, both white dudes? Like, what is happening? So I found that to be interesting as well. And then in addition to that, there's another storyline, which is called The Head of the CBI Syndicate. And from there's somebody named Diamond who was just released from prison. He had a 15-year sentence. And because he's been on good behavior and he was using his skills as a barber to cut, some of the inmates' hair as well as the hair of, some of the different correctional officers and different things that work in that particular prison. So then it ends up being he gets out early on good behavior. So you hear some of the inmates say that they're going to let him get comfortable first, and then they're going to make their move while when Diamond's on the outside. And then as a gift, they all of the workers chipped in to give Diamond like a nice set of barber supplies and everything else so that he can use, because it was basically like a nice gesture on their parts, and so that he can go legit, so that he can do legit, be a barber and not turn, to illegal activities, which got him in jail in the first place. And so one of his belongings was like these expensive pair of J's. And the guy checking him out and releasing him, he was like, I can pay you $150 for these. And, Diamond's like, it's worth way more than that. And so originally he was going to take it back and take it with him because he had this cool, like, Chicago Bulls, like 6 championships jacket on and all this and that. And so then I think he was so overwhelmed with them, chipping in to buy him these barber supplies for him to utilize, either at a new startup business or an existing business, that he just gave the guy the J's for free and walked out of the prison basically in his socks. So then he gets picked up, and he gets picked up by his brother, who's named Jannard. And then he lets him know, like, hey, I bought the building, where the barbershop that he owned, was located. So now Diamond hopefully is trying to be on the straight and narrow, but what ends up happening is, Jannard kind of tells him that some things with the CBI has changed. And then, after Tommy gets into it with Vic, then there's a different Flynn that's harassing Gloria at the bar. So then Tommy sees him out back and beats him to a pulp, breaks his wrist, and takes his phone. And so then he sees that Vic is doing a drug deal. So basically he intercepts that drug deal and goes in to, run back into Vic and find out who they're working with. And the other person they were working with is Jannard. However, they were supposed to be meeting the actual Connect. And so then there's like these 2 little guys who are like kids that you could tell it's their first deal, that they dropped off the drugs. They're just trying to get the money, and they're completely erratic. They look like they're completely high. So it's just not a good look. and, you know, they basically scare them and, you know, kill one of them, Tommy does, and shoots the other guy, I think, in his arm. And so that guy was able to get away. And then Tommy takes the drugs, and, you know, Gennard asks Vic to pay Tommy for his troubles for saving their lives. So Vic pays him, and, you know, they're pissed because they thought that they were just going to get their drugs. Except for that was not going to happen, at least for right now. So from here, you know, we also meet the rest of the Flynn family, the father, and what appears to be the daughter. And, you know, she's like hungry to be a part of the business, to be in like her brothers and this and that. However, her dad, of course, doesn't really want her caught up in all of that. So what happens when your parents tell you no, you try to rebel and try to do stuff anyways. So she sneaks into some club, you know, she's like hooking up with some girl and finds out the girl does coke and this and that. So she's up here doing lines off of her while they're, you know, having sex and doing all this other stuff. And so then she was very impressed by whatever type of cocaine or whatever she was using and asked her if she had more. So I'm foreshadowing that this probably is going to be what she feels could be her ticket into the business. However, she does not know how dangerous this potential, you know, mixture of coke and everything else can actually be when it's all said and done. You know, she's just liking how she feels and the high that she gets off of it, but it doesn't mean that it's necessarily a good look for them to go into business with it. So then what happens is, you know, it's definitely, I feel like there is a lot more grit in this series. I feel like there's a lot more moving parts. So I feel like it's definitely going to pick up. Like I said, I liked how we kind of, you know, saw from the beginning, you know, everything that Tommy's been through, but now it's like a completely new arc. And I'm here for it. I like it. Also, another thing we find out, you know, Tommy goes back to the nursing home to see his grandmother in like the green garden or whatever. And, you know, he shows her a picture. He tells her that he's Tommy. She has like an emotional reaction, but then there's like no reaction after. So then Tommy leaves, and then somebody obviously is watching Tommy and watching him interact with the grandmother and everything else. So then this black guy rolls up on Tommy, and, you know, he's like, well, what are you doing? Nobody has been here to see her in 6 years. And so, you know, Tommy explains that this is his grandmother. Dude explains that it's also his grandmother. So they're trying to figure out how they're half brothers and what Tommy's mom did. And Tommy's trying to tell Dude that he had a better life than he did, because he considers his mother dead to him and all this and that. So then the guy was like, well, we need to exchange numbers because this is a lot to process right now. So he writes down his number on a piece of paper and gives it to Tommy. And then Tommy leaves. And then while Tommy is like out pumping gas for his Mustang, he like throws away the phone number and then takes the phone number back out of the trash and then, you know, keeps it or whatever. So it's just wild, man. And so then Tommy goes back to the bar restaurant because, you know, Miss Gloria told him that, you know, his food was going to be ready. And so basically I already knew that they were going to hook up. And so after that, we just go right to the sex scene, and it was hot. It was amazing. Well done scene. Like I said, Gloria and Tommy have tons of chemistry. I don't even know why they're trying to make her a thing with Vic, because it's boring and it's not interesting. They should have just had her and Tommy try to build something off from the start. But anyways, you know, they have sex, and afterwards, you know, Tommy spots a surfboard, and so he was asking Gloria, does she surf and this and that, and she was like, my husband does. And he was like, oh, you have a husband? And she was like, yeah, but he's deployed and I never saw him again. So I'm thinking that maybe he's dead, or I don't know. I felt like there was like not enough, you know, information there. And so she was then asking Tommy if he's ever been married, and he said no, but he said he almost was, and then was thinking about Keisha. And so then Gloria was like, well, would you ever think of doing it, getting married or whatever? Mind you, who asks this after a one night stand of all things? Like, hey, do you want to get married one day? And so Tommy's, thinking, he was like, well, maybe one day, but, he's still, dealing with the grief and everything else of losing Keisha. So I don't think right now is the time for him to be pursuing anything serious until he is fully over Keisha. But I hope eventually that him and Gloria can really be a power couple, because they have insane chemistry and she needs to leave that Vic loser Flynn guy alone. So then word gets back that Tommy stole the drugs to the Flynn family. So that wasn't going to fly, obviously. Everybody kept warning Tommy throughout the episode to get out of Chicago. And Tommy, if you tell him no, that means yes to him. That means it's a new challenge for him, because the guy, I think his name is Rodolfo or something, kept blowing up his phone from Cali like, hey, when are you going to get here? You're supposed to be here this day. You're supposed to be here that day. And you are nowhere to be found. And so initially Tommy said that he was en route, but then things started to change as the episode unfolded, and he started to see what was happening, and he started to see that there could be an opportunity for him to really make even more business and things compared to New York, where everything's very strict with the different boroughs and everything else. He feels as though this could be a huge opportunity for him to do some serious business expansion and, run his own team, run his own empire versus reporting to somebody. So then 3 Cadillac Escalades, I love a Cadillac, surround Tommy's Mustang as he's out and about and driving. And then he tries to swerve, and then they try to swerve. He tries to do all this stuff. And so then they end up off on this bridge, and it's the Flynn family hey, I thought I told you to get out of Chicago. And Tommy's basically well, I am hard-headed. So then the father gets into the car with Tommy, tells him to drive. They drive to the Flynn estate, and that is where he meets, Flynn, Vic's father, who is the head of everything. They have a chat, and once again, he warns him to leave and get out of Chicago and never come back, and that's his warning. Tommy leaves him the drugs that he stole, and, essentially then Vic appears, and they're all well, he's all trying to play it cool, oh, well, we got our drugs back, Dad, and, you could just tell that the father is so disappointed in Vic and just looks at him like a schmuck and does not care about him at all. So, but yeah, I like it. I like where this is going to start off. The episode basically ends with Tommy calling, the Connect in Cali, saying, hey, I thought, I was going to be going out there, but essentially I'm, going to work for myself. I don't want to work for you, and I want to stay here in Chicago. Now, I'm kind of torn on this because I kind of wanted to see what the landscape and the storyline potentially could be of Tommy starting anew in LA, and completely navigating through that, whether it was going to be through college kids, whether what was going to be the arc of that particular storyline, and how he was going to get a team together or work with their team, and how all of that was going to go. However, I love the chemistry between Tommy and Gloria. However, I'm not sure about the Flynn family yet. I do like the dad. I do think the dad definitely means business, but I think his sons are just schmucks. They are just completely wannabes, and that's not going to work for Tommy. Tommy's going to have to end up pulling in Diamond or Gerard or somebody to be a part of his team and go from there. But I do think what's going to happen is Tommy is going to create his own business, and he is going to end up intercepting Flynn's business throughout Chicago. And then they're going to start to notice that, people that they used to supply with no longer want to deal with them, and that they're dealing directly with Tommy. And then I think things will eventually come to head. And so that essentially is it. I feel as though out of all the Power spinoffs thus far, if I were to rank them, I would say Power Book 4 Force is number 1, and I would say Power Book 2, Ghost is number 2, and I would say Raising Kanan is 3. Is how I would rank the spinoffs thus far. I definitely think, actually, after watching this probably should have came out first, but I understand why Ghost came out, you know, as soon as it did as well. But I definitely like where Power Book 4 Force is going. I did see online some people had some feelings. They were upset that they didn't see that many black people yet. But my thing is this, like, you have to look at it from the standpoint of casting and who the star of the show is. If the star was, you know, somebody black, like Omari Hardwick or what have you, then it's different. Then you can do a predominantly black cast. You can, you know, also then start to incorporate Hispanic people and everything else because of the arc and the storyline in the background of Ghost. However, since this is completely and solely about Tommy, and we started to see storylines in the original Power of his ties to Italian families and Italian mob and all that stuff. I definitely see the direction and the vision that they are trying to go with this spinoff. So I am going to, you know, for me, I was very intrigued. I was so intrigued that I didn't even watch the season finale of Power Book 2 Ghost yet. I still have to do that, but that's how much into I was in this show. Like, I had no interruptions. I watched the entire hour, whatever it was, and I was at the edge of my seat because I felt like there was a good mix of storyline, there was good mix of storytelling, there was, you know, good mix of, you know, of setting up what the different dynamics is going to be. But like I said, I think Gloria is bad. I think she is going to be like giving Tommy a run for his money. I think they have amazing chemistry. She needs to drop whatever the situation is with Vic and just get on team Tommy. Tommy needs to, you know, continue to get over his grief and move forward. But I think he's going to eventually get caught up with Gloria to where he's going to be, you know, just as into her, just as obsessed with her as he was at one point with Keisha. So it'll be very interesting to see. If you guys have not watched it yet, I definitely recommend it. I definitely think it will be a hit, and I think it has potential to be one of the highest rated spinoffs thus far. I think the buzz and everything else is, you know, amazing. Now, one thing I will say that I didn't like is I'm not sure yet if how I feel about the song. How I feel about the theme song of the show. Like, I felt like there should have been something bigger, like the original Power theme song. So I don't know. Like, I understand having Jeremiah as the feature because he's from Chicago. I didn't mind that. I just don't know if the actual song choice and everything else was appropriate. It got me hype and anticipating for the show, but it's not on the same level as Big Rich Town is. I just feel like that is just a masterpiece. So I'm still trying to figure out how we're going to navigate that. If there's something else that 50 and Jeremiah can do, because usually 50 and Jeremiah put out bangers. So I don't know. I feel like they need to like rework something and make it magical like the original Power theme song is. So that is all that I have. Let me know your guys' thoughts. Please do not forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Hit the notification button so you're notified the moment I post new content on my channel. And with that being said, I will talk to you guys again very soon.